Ready to share your work with the world? Let's find out how to prepare your files so that they always look their best. Sharpening is one of the best and worst things that can be done to any photographic image. Why do I say that? Applied correctly, sharpening can make an image sing. Done poorly, however, and it can wreck your image beyond repair. Let's see how to do this the right way. Let's go to our Chapter 15 folder and open up the file Sharpen. I'm going to press the F key to take us into full screen mode with menu bar, and let's zoom in to 100%. That's Command 1 on the Mac, Control 1 on the PC. And to select our sharpening tool, we'll go to the filter menu, down to Sharpen, and we're going to choose Smart Sharpen. Right away you'll notice that we've got a great preview box in Smart Sharpen, and this allows us to have two views of the image at the same time. I can click in this preview box and drag it anywhere I want in the image. I'm going to move this over here so we can see some hair on the horse, and I'm going to go in my image window and hold down the spacebar key and move this so I can see his eye. Now, two things I want to point out before we get started. Software sharpening is just a visual trick. All we're going to be doing is increasing the contrast along edges. So we can't magically refocus an image. That means two things. One, you want to be fairly conservative with your sharpening. And two, you want to judge your results by looking at the image at 100% on screen and by viewing a part of the image that is sharp. So this is a great area to look at, as is this, but we don't want to start sharpening and try to sharpen this guy who's purposely out of focus. Okay, so make sure that you've got a sharp area of the image in view. Now moving to our Smart Sharpen dialog, we have amount and radius controls. Amount is our basic volume control. Do we want a lot of sharpening or a little bit? Radius lets us decide how far from the edge our sharpening effect is going to spill out. What's an edge, you ask? An edge is simply where dark pixels butt up against light pixels. Now let's take a look at this. Now right now we've got an amount of 100 and a radius of 1, and let's see what change that's made to our image. If I turn off this preview box, you can see in the image document window, there's with no sharpening, there's with some sharpening. You might have noticed there's no change here in this preview box. To see the before and after here, you simply move your hand anywhere in this preview box, click, and hold down the mouse. That's our before view. And let it go. And there's our after. So already we can see at this default setting, we've got some sharpening going on. Let's increase this a bit because I want to show you what amount and radius do. If we set a high amount here and a high radius, we quickly have an over-sharpened mess. Now, while I'm not going to be able to give you magic numbers that will work for every single image, I can tell you this. When you set a high amount, you are going to want a low radius, and vice versa. You're not going to have a need 99.9% of the time to be dragging amount and radius, either both, all the way to the right or all the way to the left. So you want to sort of play these two off of each other. There's a couple of other options here that are important. Next to remove, you want to click on this pull down and make sure you select lens blur. That is going to be the most realistic and precise algorithm for sharpening these pixels. Also, make sure you turn on this more accurate checkbox. If you have an older computer, this may slow you down a bit, but this ensures that what you see in the preview box is what you're going to get once you hit the OK button. We don't want any nasty surprises there. Let's go and set this to a more realistic result. I'm going to come down some here on the amount, and I'm going to come down significantly on the radius. Now let's take a look at our before and after with just the hair on this mane. Here's our before, and there's our after. Not too bad. And let's take a look at the before and after in the eye by turning this preview on and off. I could use the keyboard shortcut here of the letter P to toggle this off and on. There's no sharpening. Here's our sharpening there. Now we're going to move and turn on the advanced radio button here, and this is the magic of Smart Sharpen. So far we've set a global sharpening value that affects the entire image, but now we have shadow and highlight tabs, which means that if I click on shadow, I can independently adjust the sharpening that's applied to the dark areas of the image. If I'm happy with the overall sharpening, but I feel that it's getting a little bit overdone in the shadows, I simply drag this fade amount. And watch the eye of this horse. As I drag it to the right, the fade amount reduces the sharpening effect. We have a tonal width, and we can use this to define what a shadow is. If we drag this to the left, we are narrowly defining shadows, so we're restricting this fade amount to only the darkest areas of the image. If we wanted to expand our definition of a shadow, we could simply drag it to the right and include more tones in that. Here, I'm going to restrict this to more of the darker shadows here. And we have a radius that we can use to even further refine our tonal width. For now, I'm going to leave this at its default of 1 pixel, and let's go and take a look at the highlights. We can do the same thing here, and I'm going to move this image over just so we can take a look at this stretch right along here. If we felt that our sharpening was a little bit too strong there, we could fade out and soften that up a bit. I think in this case we're pretty good. I might just come in about 10% right there. Tonal width and radius both look good. And we're going to hit OK to commit to these changes. Now let's take a look at our before and after here in the history panel. This is the image we started with, and this is Smart Sharpen. When it's time to put ink onto paper, learning how to properly set up Photoshop's print dialog can save you both time and money. Let's start in our Chapter 15 folder and select the file titled Print. When you're ready to print, you can go to the File menu and select Print. The shortcut is Command-P on the Mac, Control-P on the PC. That brings up our Photoshop print dialog. Lots of options here. Let's go through them. At the very top, the first thing we want to do is make sure that the correct printer is selected. Now, if you only have one printer, there won't be additional choices, but if you're like me and have multiple printers connected, you want to verify that you are choosing the correct one. We're going to print to this 3800. It's a photo printer. We can choose how many copies to print. I'm going to leave this set to 1. And just below New to CS5 is a Print Settings button right in this dialog. If we click it, we go to our Print Driver dialog box. Here it lists the printer that we're using, and we can choose the paper size. I'll show you the options that are available for this particular printer. We're going to just use US letter. Here where it says Layout, we're going to have a lot of printer-specific options. So your options may look vastly different depending on the printer that you have. So I'm not going to cover these. We'll leave these at their defaults and simply hit the Save button. That brings us back to the print window. And what can we do with our image? Well, the first thing we can do is orient it properly. Right now we've got a horizontal image set to print on a vertical sheet. No problem, we simply go and click this landscape orientation button, and now our image fits nicely on the page. We can center the image with this checkbox selected. It centers it. We can turn this off, and we can manually move this image around, tell it exactly how we want it to print on the sheet. If we know specifically how far we want that to print from the edge, we can simply enter it. In this box, I could set it to print 1 inch from the top, hit the Tab key, and set it to print 1 inch from the left side. For now, I'm going to simply center it. We can scale the print. If this image was too big to fit on our sheet, we could scale it down simply by checking this box. It would automatically scale it, or we could choose to manually scale it. Note that right now at 100%, our height is 6 inches and our width is 9. We can see our print resolution right here, 300 ppi. The ppi is for pixels per inch, and that is a great resolution to use for a high quality print. Up at the top right, I want you to notice our color management pull-down menu. This is crucial when you're printing photographs. You want to make sure that this document radio button is checked, and you also want to verify that next to profile you see a profile name, in this case ProPhoto RGB. You just don't want to see it say untagged, so it can say sRGB, Adobe 1998, any of those are going to be fine. Here's an important option, color handling. We have two choices, Printer manages colors or Photoshop manages colors. Now if you're printing to a laser printer or one of those all-in-one printer fax scan machines, you're probably best off choosing Printer manages color. I've selected in this case a photo printer that has things called printer profiles for excellent and accurate output, so I'm going to select Photoshop manages colors. With that selected, we can choose a printer profile. A printer profile is specific to your printer and your paper that you're using, and it will let Photoshop adjust the colors automatically so that what you get on the print looks very similar to what you see on screen. With a printer profile, you need to choose a rendering intent. For photographic images, your two choices are going to be perceptual or relative colorimetric. You don't have to worry about the other two. We're going to leave this set at relative. That's a fairly safe choice in most situations. We have a black point compensation box. I'll save you the gory details about its function, but you can never go wrong by having this checked, so we'll leave it set exactly the way it is. Another thing I want to show you relates to the preview you have of this image in the dialog box. Because we have chosen a specific printer profile, we can choose to match the print colors. So we can adjust this image so that on screen we get a bit of a preview of how it's going to look on that paper. We can choose Show Paper White. Now this is going to be a drastic change, and you can see a much cooler paper border because the paper that I have chosen, signified by the printer profile, is a very cool or cold paper. It looks almost blue by comparison to neutral white. We have a gamut warning box if you want to see the colors that are going to have to be adjusted to fit within the gamut of your printer paper combination. You can simply turn this on, and you'll see parts of the image show up in gray. It doesn't mean they're going to print gray. It simply means those colors need to be shifted a bit to fit within the gamut that your paper printer combination has. The last thing I can show you is in the output menu. Here we can choose to set printing marks. We can print registration. We can set corner crop marks, center crop marks. If we have descriptions or labels, we can put those. We could send the image to print as a negative image if we're laying down plates, for example. Down below this, though, are some useful functions. We can choose to print a background. If you really want to blow through some ink, well, you can simply choose a background color for your image. You simply click in the color picker, hit OK, and now we have a background that will be added. We could choose to print with a border. I'm going to set this to inches, but you could choose one of the other units of measure if you prefer. And there we have a border around the image. We can also choose a bleed. If you're going to have your image professionally trimmed, they will greatly appreciate having extra image area to cut into. And after all this hard work, it is finally time to hit the print button. Nothing beats the web as a medium for sharing your images, and Photoshop gives us an easy way to optimize files so that they always look their best. Let's open for the final time in our Chapter 15 folder a file, and this time Web TIFF. If we want to save this file for the web, we go to the File menu and select Save for Web and Devices. Now this is a very cool dialog box chock full of options. Let's start with this Original tab here, and I'm going to click and drag so we can have our subject in plain view right here. Now this is our original image, and to the right we have a box where we can set the compression. We can choose to save as a JPEG, a GIF, all these other formats, and we can even choose the quality at which we're saving it. But this original view doesn't do us a whole lot of good because it won't preview any of the changes we set here. To get that, let's click on this 2-up tab. I'll scroll this over, and now we have something to work with. Our image on the left is our original, a beautiful quality image. If we click on this right image, you can see this is what would happen if we set it to a JPEG at a low quality value of 10. So you can see exactly what's going to happen to your image. Down here at the bottom you can see the huge savings in file size. We're down to only a 133 kilobyte file. And notice this menu here on the right. If you click on it, you'll see approximations of download times. So if you're sending this to someone and they have an ISDN or cable modem or a T1 line, you can get a quick idea of how long it will take them to receive the file. But the image quality is absolutely horrible. So let's go and bump this quality up. Let's set it to high. At that value of 60, we have a much better image quality. A little bit of image loss compared to the original, but acceptable. We could change this even further. We could click on the word quality, and I could type in an 85 here, for example, and boost my quality up. Now, a couple of checkboxes here that are very important no matter which compression setting you're using. Check the embed color profile. That will embed the profile with the image, and we must have convert to sRGB selected. Don't believe me? I'll show you what will happen without that. Right now, our preview is using the document profile. Now, if you send this to someone and they're using Photoshop, they'll see the image. It'll look just like you're seeing it. But if they open it up in their web browser or some other application that is not color managed, your image may look like that, or it could look like that, or it could look like that. So if you want to ensure that recipients of your image have an accurate view, you must check the Convert to sRGB box. Without this, you run a great risk of your image looking much worse than you intended. Down here at the bottom, we can see that we can change the pixel dimensions of the image. Right now it's at 100%. We could set this to 50% if we want to reduce the size there. And again, you have a preview of what would happen at various settings. Now, if just seeing a 2-image comparison is not enough for you, let's go to the 4-up tab. Now, with our original in the upper left, we can see a version at a quality of 85, a version at a quality of 42, and a low quality version at a value of 21. So you can choose from any of these options here. You can also preview these directly in your web browser. We have a preview button down at the bottom, and in this pop-up menu, there's a list of all the web browsers I have installed on my system. If you're not seeing the web browsers you have installed, go to the edit list, click on Find All, and that will bring up a list of the browsers that you have available. So you could actually click Preview and this image will open up inside your web browser. Now once you've made your decision as to which image you would like to save, you simply click on it to highlight it, and we're simply going to go down and hit the Save button. I'm going to press the Return Enter key. The Save button takes us to our Save As dialog. I'm going to put mine directly in the Chapter 15 folder, and I'm going to hit Save. Now we've just saved a file specifically created for the web. Quick and easy. Wow, time flies when you're having fun. We've covered a vast terrain of Photoshop skills, from setting up user preferences to creating a composite image. The techniques you've learned are the basis of a sound, high-quality workflow that let you modify and create images in Photoshop with confidence. Now it's time for you to put those tools into action. Whether improving existing images or creating new ones from scratch, let Photoshop and your imagination be your guide. The possibilities are endless. The results can be breathtaking. If you'd like to learn more about me or my work, visit diallophotography.com. And once you've mastered everything in this series, be sure to visit totaltraining.com to take advantage of more great training. On behalf of the entire team here at Total Training, I'm Amadou Diallo. It's been a pleasure working with you. And here's to continued discoveries in Photoshop CS5.